Number 1. You cannot distinguish between empathy and overinvolvement in others' problems to avoid facing your own. You believe your intense focus on others' emotional states, your constant awareness of their needs and their struggles, your tendency to become consumed with helping them solve their problems reflects your exceptional empathic capacity. Yet genuine empathy involves feeling with someone while maintaining clear boundaries between their experience and yours, understanding their emotional state without becoming lost in it, offering support that respects their autonomy rather than taking over their problems. Your pattern differs fundamentally. You become enmeshed in others' struggles to the point where their problems become more real to you than your own, where your energy flows almost entirely toward managing their emotional states, while your own needs and struggles remain unaddressed, where you use focus on them as avoidance mechanism that prevents facing your own unresolved issues and unmet needs. This overinvolvement serves function that has nothing to do with genuine empathy. It allows you to avoid confronting your own pain, your own needs, your own patterns requiring change by keeping your attention focused outward on others' problems. When you are consumed with fixing someone else's life, with managing someone else's emotions, with solving someone else's problems, you do not have to face your own suffering or your own responsibility for creating satisfying life. The focus on others operates as distraction from yourself, as way of feeling valuable and needed without doing work of addressing your own wounds, as mechanism for avoiding the discomfort of turning your attention inward toward issues you have not resolved. Why this is a good thing. Recognizing you are not super empath, but rather a codependent person who overinvolves in others' problems to avoid facing your own, creates opportunity to address actual issue rather than remaining trapped in flattering mischaracterization. You can begin examining why you cannot tolerate turning attention toward your own life, what you are avoiding through your focus on others, what needs remain unmet because you are investing all your energy in meeting others' needs. You can develop actual boundaries that allow genuine empathy without enmeshment, can learn to support others without abandoning yourself, can face your own issues rather than using others as distraction. The growth requires releasing the super empath identity that justified your codependent patterns and accepting you have work to do on yourself that your overinvolvement in others has prevented. Number 2. You use your supposed empathy to manipulate others into meeting needs you will not state directly. You believe your exceptional empathic attunement to others' emotional states represents gift that allows you to understand what people need before they articulate it, to provide support that addresses unspoken needs, to create deep connection through intuitive understanding that transcends verbal communication. Yet your actual pattern involves using your attention to others' emotional cues as a way to manage their perception of you and to manipulate them into meeting your needs without you having to express those needs directly. You attune carefully to what pleases others, not from genuine empathy, but from strategy of providing what they want, so they will eventually provide what you want, of making yourself indispensable, so they will not leave, of managing their emotional state, so they remain available to meet needs you cannot acknowledge or request directly. This manipulation through supposed empathy manifests in specific patterns. You provide extensive support that creates obligation in others to reciprocate even when you claim you expect nothing in return. You attune to others' needs carefully while becoming hurt or resentful when they fail to intuit your needs with equivalent accuracy. You give excessively, not from genuine generosity, but from unconscious calculation that your giving creates debt others must repay. You become wounded when others fail to read your unspoken needs with the same attention you pay to theirs, revealing that your empathic attunement serves strategic rather than genuinely generous function. Genuine empaths can attune to others without requiring reciprocal mind reading, can give without creating obligation, can express their needs directly rather than expecting others to intuit them. You cannot operate this way. Your empathic attunement serves to avoid vulnerable, direct communication of your needs. Your giving creates resentment when others fail to provide equivalent return. Your attention to others' unspoken states conceals your expectation that they should provide equivalent attention to your unspoken states. This pattern is not exceptional empathy. It is covert manipulation, where you use giving and empathic attunement as currency to purchase meeting of needs you will not acknowledge directly. Why this is a good thing. Recognizing your empathic attunement serves manipulation rather than genuine gift, allows you to develop capacity for direct, honest communication about your needs. You can learn to state what you need rather than expecting others to intuit it, can give freely without creating obligation, can recognize when you are attuning to others strategically rather than genuinely. The growth requires releasing super empath identity that concealed your manipulation and accepting you have responsibility to communicate directly rather than using empathic giving as covert way to get needs met without vulnerable asking. Number 3, you become overwhelmed by others' emotions because you lack developed sense of self to maintain boundaries. You interpret your tendency to become overwhelmed by others' emotional states as evidence of your exceptional sensitivity, your capacity to feel so deeply that you absorb others' emotions in ways that typical people do not experience. You characterize your inability to maintain emotional boundaries as proof of your empathic gift, evidence that you feel things more intensely than others, demonstration of your profound connection to human suffering. Yet your overwhelm reflects not exceptional empathy, but rather lack of developed sense of self that would allow you to feel others' emotions without losing yourself in them, to understand others' experiences without your own emotional state being determined by theirs, to maintain clear perception of where you end and others begin. This lack of self manifests through your emotional state being primarily determined by others' emotional states rather than by your own internal experience. You feel anxious when others are anxious, depressed when others are depressed, activated when others are activated, with minimal capacity to maintain your own emotional center when exposed to others' strong emotions. This reactivity is not empathy. It is enmeshment born from weak boundaries that reflect underdeveloped self. Genuine empaths can feel with others while maintaining their own emotional stability, can understand others' suffering without being consumed by it, can remain grounded in their own center while present to others' experiences. Your overwhelm also serves defensive function. It allows you to avoid responsibility for your own emotional regulation by attributing your emotional state to others' influence, permits you to remain in victim position where others' emotions make you feel badly rather than facing that you lack capacity to manage your own emotional state independently. The overwhelm becomes excuse for why you cannot maintain boundaries, cannot make decisions that serve your well-being when those decisions would disappoint others, cannot establish your own life separate from others' needs and states. Why this is a good thing? Recognizing your overwhelm reflects lack of self rather than exceptional empathy creates opportunity to develop boundaries and independent emotional regulation. You can work on strengthening your sense of self so you can feel others' emotions without being consumed, can maintain your own center while present to others, can distinguish between empathic understanding and reactive enmeshment. The development requires releasing super empath identity that characterized your lack of boundaries as gift and accepting you have work to do, developing capacity to maintain yourself in presence of others' strong emotions. Number 4, you pride yourself on understanding others, yet remain baffled by why your relationships consistently fail. You maintain that your exceptional empathic capacity allows you to understand people at profound level, to see beneath their defenses to their true selves, to comprehend their motivations and their needs with accuracy that others cannot achieve. Yet despite this supposed profound understanding, your relationships consistently fail in similar patterns. You attract unavailable partners. You remain in harmful dynamics longer than reasonable. You feel consistently unappreciated despite your exceptional giving. You experience repeated betrayal or abandonment by people you thought you understood deeply. This pattern reveals that your supposed exceptional understanding is actually projection and fantasy rather than accurate perception, that you see what you want to see rather than seeing what is actually there, that your empathic claims serve to justify your poor relationship choices rather than reflecting genuine capacity to understand others. The disconnect between claimed understanding and repeated relationship failure exposes that you are understanding imagined version of people rather than actual people, that you are projecting your wishes and your needs onto others rather than perceiving their actual qualities and capacities, that your empathy serves fantasy rather than reality. Genuine understanding would allow you to recognize red flags early, to assess people's actual demonstrated capacity rather than their potential, to protect yourself from repeatedly choosing people who cannot meet your needs. Your supposed profound understanding fails to protect you from repeated harmful choices. Because that understanding is not actually accurate perception, it is wishful thinking disguised as empathic insight. The pride in your understanding also prevents learning from repeated relationship failures, because you maintain that you understood them deeply, which means their failure to be adequate partners must reflect their problems rather than reflecting your poor assessment or your problematic patterns. You cannot learn from relationship patterns when you maintain you understood people accurately yet chose them anyway. When you insist your empathy gave you accurate read, yet relationships consistently fail in similar ways. The super empath identity prevents the honest assessment that would allow different choices. Why this is a good thing. Recognizing your supposed exceptional understanding has not prevented repeated relationship failures, allows you to examine whether you are actually perceiving people accurately or whether you are projecting wishes onto them. You can develop actual discernment that protects you rather than supposed empathic understanding that has consistently failed to prevent poor choices. You can learn to see people as they demonstrate themselves to be, rather than as you empathically intuit them to be, can recognize that repeated relationship failures indicate your perception is flawed rather than indicating you have bad luck with partners. The growth requires releasing super empath identity that prevented examining your actual poor assessment and accepting you need to develop different way of evaluating people based on their demonstrated behavior rather than on your empathic projections. Number 5. You feel superior to people you characterize as less sensitive, yet you treat them worse than they treat you. You maintain implicit sense of superiority based on your supposed exceptional empathic capacity. You are more sensitive than others, you feel more deeply, you understand things that typical people miss, you possess gift that elevates you above those with less developed emotional awareness, you characterize people with healthy boundaries as less empathic, people who prioritize their own needs as less caring, people who make rational decisions rather than being consumed by emotions as cold or disconnected. Yet despite your supposed superior empathy and sensitivity, you treat people worse than they treat you. You violate others' boundaries. While claiming your exceptional empathy, you fail to respect others' clearly stated needs while insisting you understand them profoundly. You dismiss others' experiences that do not match your empathic reading. You prioritize your emotional experience over others' explicitly communicated preferences. This contradiction exposes that your supposed exceptional empathy serves narcissistic function rather than genuine caring function. It allows you to feel special while excusing your actual lack of respect for others' boundaries and clearly stated needs. Genuine empathy generates respectful, considerate treatment of others. Your supposed empathy generates sense of superiority that permits you to override others' explicitly stated preferences because you believe your empathic intuition about what they really need or feel supersedes their own self-knowledge and communication. The superiority also manifests in your judgments of people who establish boundaries with you. You characterize them as less evolved, less empathic, less capable of deep connection when actually they are simply maintaining healthy boundaries that your enmeshed relating style cannot respect. You position yourself as more sensitive when actually you are more invasive, more boundary violating, more disrespectful of others' autonomy under guise of exceptional empathic understanding. Why this could be a good thing. Recognizing your supposed superior empathy has not generated superior treatment of others allows you to examine whether you are actually as caring and sensitive as you believe, or whether you are using empathy claims to justify narcissistic patterns. You can develop actual respect for others' boundaries and explicitly stated needs, rather than believing your empathic intuition supersedes their self-knowledge. You can recognize that people who maintain boundaries are not less empathic than you. They are more evolved than you in ways you have failed to develop. The growth requires releasing super empath identity that served narcissistic superiority and accepting you have work to do. Learning to respect others, rather than believing your empathic gifts, exempt you from basic respectful treatment of others' autonomy. Number 6. You cannot handle criticism or feedback because you believe your empathic intentions excuse your impact. You respond to criticism or feedback about your behavior with defensiveness, rooted in your super empath identity. You insist the other person misunderstood your intentions. You explain that your behavior came from a place of caring or empathy. You position their hurt or frustration as their failure to recognize your good intentions. You characterize their feedback as evidence. They are less empathic or less capable of understanding you. You believe that because you intended well, because you acted from a place of supposed empathy, the actual impact of your behavior is irrelevant, or is the other person's problem for misinterpreting your good intentions. This defensive response reveals that your super empath identity serves to protect you from accountability rather than generating genuine care for others' experiences. Genuine empathy would allow you to hear that your behavior harmed someone and to feel appropriate remorse even when you intended well, to recognize that impact matters regardless of intention, to take responsibility for adjusting your behavior when it harms others. You cannot do this. Your identity as exceptionally empathic person prevents you from accepting feedback because accepting that feedback would contradict your self-concept as someone whose exceptional empathy means you understand others and care for them at profound level. The inability to handle feedback also exposes that your supposed exceptional empathy flows one direction. You believe you understand others empathically, yet you cannot empathically receive their communications about how your behavior affects them. You can empathize with imagined internal states you project onto others, yet you cannot empathize with their explicitly communicated experience of your behavior. This selective empathy reveals that your empathic identity serves your narcissistic needs rather than reflecting genuine capacity to feel with others and to adjust based on understanding their actual experience. Why this could be a good thing? Recognizing your super empath identity prevents you from receiving feedback, allows you to develop actual accountability for your impact regardless of your intentions. You can learn that empathy means feeling with others when they tell you that you hurt them rather than defending your intentions, means adjusting your behavior based on their experience rather than insisting they misunderstood your empathic motives. You can recognize that inability to receive criticism indicates narcissistic defensiveness rather than exceptional empathy. The growth requires releasing super empath identity that protected you from accountability and accepting that genuine empathy includes empathizing with others' explicit communications about your impact on them, even when that impact contradicts your self-concept as exceptionally caring person. Number 7. You use your empathic identity to avoid taking action that serves your actual well-being. You explain your failure to leave harmful relationships, your continued tolerance of inadequate treatment, your inability to establish consequences for others' harmful behavior through your super empath identity. You understand them too deeply to abandon them. You feel their pain too intensely to establish boundaries that would hurt them. Your exceptional empathy prevents you from taking action that would serve your well-being if that action causes others discomfort. This framing makes your passivity and your tolerance of harm seem like evidence of your empathic gift rather than evidence of your fear or your codependence or your inability to prioritize your own needs. Yet genuine empathy does not require accepting harmful treatment. Genuine empathy allows you to understand why someone behaves harmfully while simultaneously protecting yourself from that harm, to feel compassion for someone's struggles while establishing that their struggles do not excuse their impact on you, to care about someone while recognizing that caring does not obligate you to tolerate their inadequate or harmful behavior. Your inability to take action that serves your well-being is not evidence of exceptional empathy. It is evidence of fear of abandonment, of codependent need to be needed, of using empathy claims as excuse for remaining in situations that harm you. The empathic identity also allows you to feel superior and special even while remaining in dysfunctional dynamics. You are suffering because you care too much, because you feel too deeply, because your empathic gift means you cannot abandon people the way less sensitive people could. This framing transforms your passivity into evidence of your exceptional quality, makes your suffering meaningful rather than making it signal that you need to make different choices. The super empath identity keeps you trapped in harm while maintaining that your entrapment reflects your gift. Why this could be a good thing? Recognizing your empathic identity serves as excuse for passivity, allows you to examine what actually prevents you from taking action that serves your well-being. You can face your actual fears. Fear of being alone, fear of being seen as a bad person, fear of others' disapproval, rather than hiding those fears behind empathy claims. You can develop capacity to protect yourself while maintaining compassion, to leave harmful situations while caring about the person you are leaving, to recognize that genuine empathy includes empathy for yourself and your own suffering. The growth requires releasing super empath identity that justified your passivity, and accepting you have responsibility to act on your own behalf, even when action causes others discomfort. Number 8. You attract narcissists not because of your empathic light, but because your lack of boundaries makes you easy target. You explain your pattern of attracting narcissists or unavailable partners through narrative that positions your exceptional empathy as magnet that draws damaged people who need your healing gifts, that characterizes your empathic light as something narcissists seek to consume or exploit. This narrative makes your pattern seem inevitable consequence of your gift rather than consequence of your behaviors and choices. Yet you attract narcissists not because your empathy draws them, but because your lack of boundaries, your tolerance of inadequate treatment, your tendency to overgive without reciprocation, your willingness to accept minimal effort while providing maximum accommodation makes you ideal target for people seeking someone to exploit. Narcissists do not seek empaths specifically. They seek people who will tolerate their inadequacy, who will accept their minimal investment, who will accommodate their patterns without establishing consequences, who will provide narcissistic supply through attention and admiration without requiring reciprocal provision. Your lack of boundaries and your pattern of overgiving while under-receiving makes you attractive to exploitative people, not because you possess special empathic gift, but because you demonstrate through your behavior that you will tolerate exploitation. People with genuine healthy empathy who also possess boundaries do not attract narcissists at same rate because their boundaries make them unappealing targets for exploitation. Narcissists move on to easier targets who will not establish consequences. The narrative that you attract narcissists because of your empathic light also prevents you from examining your own role in selecting and remaining with narcissistic partners. You cannot learn from pattern when you maintain. That pattern is inevitable consequence of your gift rather than consequence of your choices. You cannot develop different selection criteria when you believe narcissists seek you out because of your empathy rather than recognizing you select them based on your own unexamined patterns. Why this could be a good thing? Recognizing you attract narcissists because of your lack of boundaries rather than because of your empathic gift allows you to address actual problem. You can develop boundaries that make you an appealing target for exploitative people rather than believing you are doomed to attract narcissists because of your exceptional empathy. You can examine why you select unavailable partners, what familiar patterns they activate, what you are seeking in these dynamics, rather than maintaining you are passively targeted because of your empathic light. The growth requires releasing super empath identity that characterized your pattern as inevitable and accepting you have agency to develop boundaries that protect you and to make different choices that serve your well-being. Number 9. You cannot distinguish between empathy and anxiety-driven hypervigilance about others' emotional states. You interpret your constant monitoring of others' emotional states, your vigilant attention to subtle shifts in their mood or energy, your tendency to become preoccupied with reading others' reactions as evidence of your exceptional empathic attunement. Yet, this hypervigilance does not reflect empathy. It reflects anxiety-driven need to monitor others' states to protect yourself, trauma response where you learn to track others' emotions to predict and prevent harm, fawn response where you attune carefully to others to manage their states and prevent their anger or abandonment. Your constant attention to others' emotional cues serves your anxiety and your safety rather than serving genuine empathic connection with them. This hypervigilance manifests in specific patterns that reveal its anxiety-driven nature. You monitor others' states compulsively rather than naturally. You become distressed when you cannot read someone accurately. You use your reading of others primarily to adjust your own behavior to manage their reactions. You are more focused on subtle cues that might indicate displeasure or withdrawal than on cues that indicate positive emotional states. These patterns expose that your attention serves to regulate your anxiety through monitoring and managing others, rather than serving genuine interest in their emotional experience or genuine desire to support them. Genuine empathy involves receptive, open attention to others' experiences. Your pattern involves driven, anxious monitoring that serves self-protection. Genuine empathy allows rest when you are not actively engaging with someone. Your hypervigilance continues compulsively even when not necessary or helpful. Genuine empathy generates caring response. Your hypervigilance generates anxiety and compulsive behavior aimed at managing others' states to protect yourself. Why this could be a good thing? Recognizing your hypervigilance reflects anxiety rather than empathy, allows you to address the actual trauma or attachment wounds that drive your compulsive monitoring of others. You can work on developing security that does not require constant vigilance, can learn to distinguish between genuine empathic attention and anxiety-driven hypervigilance, can recognize that your pattern creates exhaustion and prevents genuine connection rather than reflecting exceptional gift. The healing requires releasing super empath identity that characterized your anxiety as empathy and accepting you have trauma responses requiring specific healing work rather than gift requiring celebration. Number 10. You spend more energy managing how others perceive you than developing genuine self-awareness. You focus extensive energy on ensuring others see you as empathic, as caring, as sensitive person who understands them. You craft your presentation to demonstrate your empathic qualities. You reference your sensitivity frequently. You position yourself as a person who feels deeply and cares profoundly. Yet this focus on managing others' perception of your empathy leaves minimal energy for actual self-awareness about your patterns, your motivations, your wounds requiring healing. You know extensive detail about others' internal experiences, yet you lack equivalent knowledge of your own internal landscape because your attention flows outward toward managing how others perceive you rather than inward toward understanding yourself. This outward focus serves defensive function. It allows you to avoid facing uncomfortable truths about yourself, to maintain flattering self-concept as exceptionally empathic person while avoiding examination of patterns that contradict that concept, to feel good about yourself through others' perception rather than through genuine self-knowledge and self-development. You need others to see you as empathic more than you need to actually be empathic. Need others to validate your sensitivity more than you need to develop genuine emotional maturity. Need to be perceived as understanding more than you need to develop actual insight. The energy devoted to managing perception also prevents genuine connection because you are performing empathy rather than being empathic, demonstrating sensitivity rather than experiencing it genuinely, ensuring others see you're caring rather than simply caring without need for recognition. Genuine empathy does not require performance or management of others' perception. It simply exists and expresses naturally without investment in being seen as an empathic person. Why this could be a good thing? Recognizing you invest more energy in being perceived as empathic than in developing actual self-awareness allows you to redirect that energy toward genuine growth. You can work on understanding yourself with same attention. You pay to ensuring others see you as an understanding person, can develop genuine emotional maturity rather than performing sensitivity, can focus on being empathic rather than on being seen as empathic. The growth requires releasing super empath identity that required constant external validation and accepting that genuine empathy and emotional maturity are internal qualities that do not require others' recognition or perception to be real and valuable.